Oh, what is Yupskis, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GXHockeyCast. We're on episode 140. Hendrik Zetterberg. I completely forgot that homie wore number 40 of my little hockey show, where once a week I go through all the major news and what's happenings around the NHL, semi-focused in on the Leafs and the Flames. Those are my favorite teams, but I'll be talking about all 32 teams on this podcast. And oh my goodness, I know every single hockey podcast has talked about this in length, in full detail, and yada, yada, yada. I personally have heard it 7 different times on every hockey podcast that I listen to. But my goodness, that Four Nations finale, Canada versus USA, oh my goodness, dude, that might have been the best hockey game I have ever witnessed. That was incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, if you were living underneath a rock, if you were in prison or something Thursday night, you might have missed this game. But I'm pretty sure most of Canada and the United States, even a good chunk of the world, was probably watching that game on Thursday night, man. Canada versus USA, and boy howdy, did it ever feel like more than just a hockey game. I know Biz was talking about it, and I mentioned it as well, how, there definitely was a little bit of more than just hockey behind this game. There's the whole Trump, the tariffs, and all that stuff. So I was a little bit nervous that maybe it would be like a hot pot. It would be something bad would happen. But as far as I know, nothing bad came out of it other than the Canadians coming out on top again, baby. Let's talk about it. So, Team freaking Canada, Connor McDavid. This game, they're gonna make a movie out of this. This is sensational. You can't write it any better, man. Number 97, Connor McDavid gets the overtime winning goal, man. And boy, does it ever feel reminiscent of 2010, 87, the golden goal overtime winner. Now I realize, yes, this is not the Olympics, but I don't think I've seen a game mean this much or just was this important, this big since 2010. And let me tell you something. I'll never forget it. I worked that Canada game. I was at work. I was working at a grocery store at the time. And trust me, I asked for that day off. They said I had it off, and then they ended up screwing me over and ended up working. And I might have been I shit you not, there was one human being I saw in that grocery store all night. And it was just me and 3 other people, and it was so dead in there. When Canada won, we were announcing it over the PA, swearing and all this stuff that would get you fired, but there was nobody there. And I was just getting text updates from a friend about, Canada's winning. Oh my goodness, the United States tied it at the last second. Ryan Miller, he's amazing, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. So I was scarred by that, missing the 2010 gold medal final game, the golden goal, Sidney Crosby, Iginla with the pass, and I've seen, how many times have I had that replay shoved in my face, and how many times have I had, how I was there, what were you doing when the golden goal was scored? I was fucking at a grocery store working. It was awful, but not this time, man. I was watching this game, and holy shit, did it ever deliver. What a game. Now, people are talking about, what's the bigger goal? What's the bigger game? 2010 gold medal game or the 2025 Four Nations final? I mean, for me personally, this feels really big. I got to see it. But obviously, the 2010, that's the Olympics. That's a whole different bag, man. This is just a sporadic, out-of-nowhere little tournament. And, man, did it ever just blow the doors off in terms of expectations, and man, did this ever just fucking like a slam dunk for the NHL, man. They do not get a lot of these. So let's cherish this. Let's talk about this. So no, I don't think this game was bigger than the 2010 gold medal game, but man, it was very, very close. And for me, it might be the best hockey game I've ever witnessed. There was so much talent on that ice, and the hockey was at such a high level and just nonstop for 60 minutes, man. That puck was flying around, just tape-to-tape passes, laser beams, man. These passes were just so fast and so crisp, and the players are just receiving these passes in speed, on stride, just flying around, and holy shit, man. Everything about that game was amazing. The plays that were being made, the saves, and of course the fucking defense, man. Holy shit. I don't even know where to begin, with this game. Let's try and break it down as best as I can. So, Jordan Binnington, the sin bin. My goodness, bro. Hey, I was being nice to you. I wasn't shitting all over Jordan Binnington like a lot of other people were. I was of the mind that, hey, Binnington wasn't stealing any games for Canada, but he wasn't the reason for any losses in the tournament. And Binnington, man, when the lights shine brightest on the sin bin, does this guy ever show up, man? And what a phenomenal freaking performance out of Binnington. Binnington, the overtime alone almost got this guy the MVP, almost got him, this guy could do no wrong anymore. The saves that he made on Matthews in overtime, man, just unfucking believable. So Binnington was sensational. In that game, I think you can almost say that he stole the Canadians a win there. The way that he robbed Matthews in overtime, some of the other big saves that he made, man, I swear people weren't very high on Gensel's game. They were yeah, he was good, but not one of the best on the ice. That guy had so many shots, and Binnington was just stopping them dead and just calm and cool, collective. Just looked like another fucking day for Jordan Binnington in net, man. He was absolutely sensational. And, it's definitely going to make the Team Canada, the Olympic team roster more interesting. Is Binnington now just solidified himself as the permanent starter for Canada? After a performance like that, I think it's safe to say he's definitely going to be going to the Olympics after a performance like that. The question's going to be, what are you going to do with Adin Hill and Sam Montembeault, who didn't... I don't think Adin Hill played either, so neither of those goalies really got an opportunity to do anything, so they have a chance. Logan Thompson could get onto the Olympic roster, but all I know right now is that the sin bin, Jordan Binnington, holy shit, dude. That guy, buy that guy a beer if you see him. What a performance out of Jordan Binnington. Easily could have been the MVP of the game. I think everyone was a little bit shocked that McDavid got it. Even he looked shocked when they announced the game MVP. So, I mean, I would have gave it to Binnington, honestly. McDavid wasn't the best player on the ice in that game, but he came up with the big-time goal. And a lot of comparisons get drawn to Sidney Crosby in 2010. He wasn't having the greatest tournament at that time, but he came up with the big fucking goal. And Sidney Crosby in this tournament, dude, oh my goodness, sensational. Freaking Captain Canada, Sidney Crosby, the clutchest, man. He's got that clutch gene. And overall, from all the conversations that I heard about Team Canada versus Team USA, it seems like the thing that the Americans lack is Captain Clutch, freaking that clutch gene, that just, I don't know what it is, man, but that secret ingredient, that's what Team Canada has, and the Americans just don't have that yet. And the other discussion is that the Americans, though they have a sensational team, unfucking believable, they don't have a McKinnon, they don't have a Sidney Crosby, they don't have a guy that's just undeniable. They don't have that yet. Is Austin Matthews that guy? We'll have to wait and see, but as of right now, he isn't. Austin Matthews just isn't. He hasn't won anything in this league, nothing to the likes of Sidney Crosby, McKinnon. Even, McDavid is right there. He hasn't won anything major just yet, but one of these days, this could be the spark. Maybe this little Four Nations tournament win, you see fucking McDavid raising the cup this summer. We'll have to wait and see, but that seems to be the major difference here between Canada and USA, man. USA is like a machine. They're pumping out defense and goaltenders, but where's that Cole Harbour kid, man? Where's that Cole Harbour? What is the Cole Harbour in the United States? They'll have to figure it out. It's got to be Alaska, right? It's got to be somewhere in Alaska where Gomez is from, something like that. Somewhere in Alaska, there is a kid so talented, so clutch, he's got that gene. You just got to go find him out there and bring him to America. But as of right now, man, until Austin Matthews, until one of these guys, America just does not have that freaking clutch gene when it comes to the big game in hockey, man. The evidence, the proof's in the pudding. The proof's in the pudding, man. The Canada just keeps winning these big games. Yes, the United States won the first game. They bullied us a little bit, beating us down, getting in a bunch of fights, but that's another conversation with the United States. You know, they were talking about was it Kachuk bringing up the group chat and Canada, they don't have a group chat because they don't like each other, and the idea that they were all in the group chat, you know, say, we're gonna get these fights and we're gonna fight and it's gonna be amazing, like, and you know, and Marchand calling it out, you know, like, you run your mouth and sometimes it comes back to bite you, man. And coming out of the mouth of Brad Marchand, that is just a fucking cherry on top right there. So sensational. Brad Marchand, man, even though, again, Brad Marchand, not the biggest impact in this tournament, you know, like, just his aura, just what Brad Marchand is, like, he's just Brad Marchand, man. I love those comments that he made right there, and definitely continues, like, that little seed that he planted, that's definitely going to continue this rivalry, a soundbite that the Americans are probably going to be listening to, and, yeah, man, it's very cool. I don't think there's really anything to it. I don't think, you know, I'm not buying into any of that drama there. Like, Team Canada, they don't like each other or anything like that. It's just a different locker rooms, man. Like when you're being led by Sidney Crosby and stuff like that. Like if he's calm and cool, and I saw the video of Crosby going around on that practice before the game, talking to every single player on the ice, just a little something, you know, not a big conversation, just like, I don't know, just to put some calm in you or whatever. If you see Crosby skating around, just chill, just another day, y'all, and, you know, the guy's won everything, so, like, his aura, just sensational. So, even though, I mean, Crosby had an amazing tournament, so, who knows, is he going to be there for the Olympics? I would imagine so. It seems like, yeah, I think without question, he's going to be at the Olympics, on a line with McKinnon, and overall it does look like as long as, like, I'm fine with Crosby McKinnon sticking together, I just don't want McKinnon McDavid on the same line. They don't mix well together. They don't need to be on a line together. It's redundant. There's too much of a good thing, and it's just kind of wasteful. So I'm glad they didn't do that. They had McDavid playing with Braden Point, and that seems like a good fit. Okay. So we gave Binnington his flowers. Let's talk about the Americans, and the American that by far impressed me the most is Jacob Slavin. Holy shit. I can't believe, like, still even analysts, even major freaking people in the NHL are still like, man, I did not know Slavin was this fucking good, man. This guy is sensational. I think now he's finally hit, like, like a superstar NHL level, man. Like, in terms of defense, like, the guy's a superstar. He's unfucking believable. And he proved it in the tournament. He was shutting down the biggest guys. He was excellent, man. He was excellent, making amazing passes. And it wasn't just his defense. People were seeing, like, yo, this guy can make sensational passes. Like, he's not just pure defense. Like, he can make a breakout pass and everything. He is a phenomenal defenseman. He and Brock Faber together were an insane shutdown defense pair. Like, they were playing like 27 minutes on a team. Like, you look at the freaking roster that they have, and they were by far playing the most minutes. I know Adam Fox was getting shat on quite a bit, and so on and so forth, but hey, man, not everybody can have an amazing tournament. It just seems like Adam Fox didn't flourish very well in the tournament, but Jacob Slavin, man, finally seems like he's got himself on the radar. Hopefully he gets more and more conversation in the Norris, and we get more and more conversation about, you know, hey, can we start appreciating these fucking defensemen that aren't just putting up ridiculous amount of points every year? Can we seriously just get another award out there so we can praise the guys like Chris Tanev and Jacob Slavin and so on and so forth? The damn, what's the guys on the Islanders? Freaking God, I don't remember. Pollock and Pellick and stuff like that. Like those kind of guys. The guys that are eating freaking pucks for breakfast. All that stuff. I'm tired of, Erik Karlsson, yeah, he got a 100-point season. That's incredible. The guy is fucking a net negative on defense. Like, how can you give this guy the Defenseman of the Year award when he's terrible at defense? It's just ridiculous. So I'm hoping that people seeing what Slavin did, how effective he was, and how just freaking good he is, and not taking penalties, and just, fuck, man, that guy is so good. That was my MVP of the tournament for the Americans, man. He was absolutely sensational. Austin Matthews had a great game. I have the picture saved on my phone of he and Marner with at the handshake line, and Marner, whispering in Matthews' ear, and Matthews with the most dead look in his face I have ever seen on a human being. Matthews interviewed after the game. They're like, "Oh, is that gonna haunt you?" And he's like, "Yes, Kevin, yes." Like, for fuck's sake, can you just leave Matthews alone, man? Who asked a stupid fucking question like that? Screw you, Kevin, and your stupid question. But Austin Matthews, excellent game from him. He just, I don't know, man. See, that's the clutch gene that the Americans are missing. Like, Austin Matthews, 99.9% of the time is putting that puck, that shot in that position in the net, man. That's going in, but I don't know. Again, something seems a little off with Matthews this year in particular. He just seems to be missing a lot more than usual, but he played great, man. He had a great tournament. Maybe not put in the most amount of points that you were expecting, but defensively, he was sensational. Yes, he missed the pass through Marner, and it is what it is, man. It's a game of inches, and that's all there is to it, but he was arguably one of the best American forwards on the ice that game. He was fantastic. So Matthews doesn't get it done, but man, he showed up in that tournament, and that was a big, talking point of that game was, the Toronto Maple Leaf guys going to be able to step up, and arguably they were some of the best players on the ice in that game. I think, did Matthews have 2 assists? Marner had 2 assists. He assisted on the game-winning goal, I believe. Anyway, but Marner was amazing as well. I didn't notice him, as much, but, man, he made some real nice passes out there. He's just a little water bug, man. He was flying around. I think Marner had a great game, and I really hope this is, I think Marner needed it. I don't know who needed it more, Matthews or Marner. They both needed this win, but really nice to see Marner get something to celebrate, to look happy. Same thing with McDavid, man, to see them celebrate something after so many dreadful, just back-breaking losses, man. To see that happiness in McDavid's face, to see it in Marner's face, that was great, man. That was really, really great. I don't know how many times I've seen that miserable mug on McDavid, and just, nice to see him happy and having a good time celebrating and stuff like that. But back to the American side, man. I don't think there's really any shame to be had for the Americans losing that game. It was as close of a game I think you could have had, man. It was such a fucking good game, man. I will admit, I've watched. This tournament definitely breathed life into this NHL season for me. I'm pretty much just in playoff mode at this point. I'm dying for playoff hockey, and this tournament just gave me a pulse back into the heart, jump started the heart, and my hunger for hockey came back. And sadly, I didn't get some great hockey on the way on the return to the NHL. Those 2 Leaf games, holy fuck. I didn't get to any. Doesn't matter. Regardless, I definitely got a spark out of this tournament, and I hope that Marner and the boys can take that spark all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. But other Americans I thought that were sensational. The Tkachuks, I know they're injured now, so this is what happens with the Tkachuks, man. Matthew especially, he's done this to himself before in the Florida playoffs the year before they won the Stanley Cup. He was so injured he couldn't even put his own jersey on, and these kind of things make me very nervous for Matthew Tkachuk's career. You could seriously be shortening your career doing these kind of things, where you're battling through injuries, you're trying to be tough and all that stuff, but I don't know, man, we'll see. And I appreciate it, you're tough, I appreciate the effort and everything like that, but the Tkachuks, all said and done, injuries aside, phenomenal. I love these guys. I think they are a key ingredient, which is if the NHL is going to get big, and they're going to surpass the NBA and stuff, I think the Tkachuk brothers are going to be leading that charge. And, man, Brady Tkachuk, man. We really need to see the Ottawa Senators make the playoffs this year. We need Brady Tkachuk in the NHL playoffs. We need to see this guy go. And, man, what a guy. What a guy Brady Tkachuk is, man. A sensational freaking tournament. I know he was injured, but he just kept battling. He kept trying. He was hitting, doing everything that he can, man. Getting into every scrum, doing everything that he can. So another guy I would love to have on my team. An absolute warrior. Absolute warrior are the Tkachuk brothers. We'll see how bad, like, the Matthew Tkachuk injury seems like serious. Like, Paul Maurice's quote is like, yeah, he'll probably play this year. Like, you know, that's a Paul Maurice quote. You know, he'll say things like that to draw a little more attention. But, yeah, man, it seems like Matty Tkachuk is dealing with something rather serious, and he's going to be down long term. I don't have full information on that. Brady's injury doesn't seem as serious, but still gonna be down for a little bit. So very unfortunate. But yeah, that's the price, man. It was not a light tournament. This by no means was a all-star level, you know, oh, happy fun weekend. No, this was serious, like playoff level hockey. Super high, arguably better. It may have been better hockey than what you're gonna see in the playoffs this year. Probably is, because just pure skill. You got every line was like a first line in the NHL. Sensational. You got Dylan Larkin on the fourth line. Dylan Larkin, sensational tournament. Another guy I want to see in the playoffs. An absolute dog out there. He was really noticeable. I really liked Gensel's game. I thought that guy he just kept getting shots off. I don't think he scored, but I noticed him a lot. Zach Werenski, incredible tournament. He led the whole entire tournament in points, and he's a defenseman. And there are the likes of McKinnon, McDavid, Crosby, Matthews. He outscored all those guys. So, again, Werenski having just the best year of his life right now. He is crushing it in the regular season, crushed it in this freaking tournament. Very unlikely that Columbus makes the playoffs, but, man, Werenski better get serious consideration for the Norris this season. He's been unbelievable. If Columbus didn't have him, oh my good, I don't even know if they would have a win right now without Werenski. Jacob Slavin, obviously phenomenal. Austin Matthews, fantastic. Brock Faber was excellent as well. And let's talk about Connor Hellebuyck. So Hellebuyck, he's got the big stigma. Oh, this guy can't win big games. Yada, yada, yada. And again, he loses in this game right here. And, I wish I could remember the stat off the top of my head, but I think it was something like Connor Hellebuyck's lost 11 of the 12 playoff games that the Jets have been in or something like that. The guy's got a dreadful record outside of regular NHL season. Like, he's just kind of seems to crumble under the pressure. And I wouldn't say he crumbled in this game. I thought he came up with the saves, the goals that went in. I mean, what can you do with Connor McDavid alone in front there like that in overtime? Like, you can't leave a guy like that open with that much time. So I don't put any blame on Connor Hellebuyck, man. He was the best goaltender in the tournament. May not have been the best goaltender in that particular game, but that's hockey, man. It came down to one singular game, and he got outdueled by Binnington. Binnington was the better goaltender, but I don't take anything from Hellebuyck, but it is definitely not going to help his case going into the playoffs this year. And you know what? Kyle Connor didn't have a very good showing there either. He was on the top line, got demoted, and then scratched. He wasn't even in that final game. So, you know, that doesn't bode well for Winnipeg. You know, Winnipeg Jets fans, I'd be a little bit, you know, my heartbeat would be pulsing a little bit, and as to like, oh, another here we go again type situation for them this playoffs. We'll have to wait and see. They're crushing it in the regular season, but we know that Winnipeg tends to fumble pretty freaking hard when it comes to the playoffs. So the Winnipeg Jets guys out there in this tournament didn't really do amazing. I mean, Hellebuyck did, I thought. But yeah, really not good to see Kyle Connor just so invisible in this tournament. That was very disappointing, so that's not key. Well, what is cool is let's shout out some of the Canadians that I thought had a great game or tournament. So we got, obviously, the big boys here even though McDavid didn't have like the greatest tournament, he comes up clutch with the big winner. McKinnon, bro. McKinnon, can we have the serious argument that this guy, for me, I think he's the best. I think he's the best player in the NHL. Time and time again, this guy just shows up. He was, out of the biggest names in this tournament, McKinnon was by far just the flashiest one, flying around out there, and he's just noticeable every time he's on the ice. There's not a second that I don't know that McKinnon is out there just bombing around, electric speed and just explosiveness. I love him. And that opening goal, man, that's just what he does. He flies down the wing, cuts to the middle, launches a fucking laser beam rocket through traffic. Somehow it finds the top corner. Like, that's just what the guy does, man. Every time that guy takes a shot, I'm like, there's a very good chance that it's going in. And it generally does, man. That guy, I can't get enough of Nathan McKinnon. And that was another thing that the Canadians needed to do in that game, was to clog up the front of the net in front of Hellebuck and try to get those extra chances. Even though that one just happened to find itself through all those bodies, that's what the Canadians needed to do, and they got that done. So very impressive right there, Nathan McKinnon, the absolute dog. And I ask y'all, do you think he is the best player in the NHL? All said and done, like, we're adding in like that psychopath factor that McKinnon brings that I don't think McDavid has quite yet, where McKinnon just turns into an animal, a pure animal. And for me, I think Nathan McKinnon's the best. That's just, the guy just shines the brightest in this tournament, filled with the greatest players in the game, and he was shining out there. And he gets the tournament MVP, man. So that's a big deal, man. Like, to win an MVP in this tournament where there was just so much freaking talent, like, that's a big deal. So McKinnon, that guy always just blows me away. Sam Bennett, bro. Sam Bennett, what a fucking goal that was. I lost my mind. In tight, top cheese. And Sam Bennett's going to have it's a big year for Sam Bennett, man. Like, and the Panthers. What are they going to do with this guy? He's got 1 year left, and man, there's got to be so many teams just foaming at the mouth to get their hands on Sam Bennett, begging this guy to go to free agency so they can pay this man whatever you want to come play for our team and do what you do. But, man, I think the Panthers, their best bet is just to hang on to him and probably just let him walk. I mean, you can try and trade him and get something, but I think the way that Florida plays, the way that they've won their cups, gotten to 2 back-to-back Stanley Cup finals is like guys like Sam Bennett. They go crazy in the playoffs. That's the kind of thing. And I think Florida would rather keep him and let him walk for nothing than to send him off and potentially, spoil their chances at repeating. Not that some other player they bring in would be, but I think they would just prefer to have Sam Bennett. Now, what is Sam Bennett going to command in free agency? I'm hearing insane numbers. We're talking like $10 million for the likes of a Sam Bennett. I don't know about that one. I would love for the Leafs to bring in a guy like that, but there's no way Florida would trade Sam Bennett to the Leafs, where they're more than likely they could very well meet each other in the playoffs, so I cannot see that one happening. I don't know, man. Someone's going to get Sam Bennett, and he's an absolute animal. He had a sensational tournament. And again, I go back to Calgary, why they let Sam Bennett go, and oh my God, someone brought up the trade that all the Flames got for Sam Bennett was a second-round pick and a player they no longer have, who is like maybe a middle six guy, bottom six forward, nothing special, nothing crazy, and yeah, Sam Bennett's gone. And the whole entire time that Sam Bennett was a Flame, they used him incorrectly his whole tenure there. Fourth line guy, barely used him, and the second he got out of there, went to Florida, we instantly saw what the Flames were lacking with this player, man. Like, he is a sensational player, former 3rd overall pick, and that year he could have gone first. Like, there was talks of him going 1st overall, and you're starting to see that player now. Like, he's a very, there's not many players like him in the league. And man, to have a center like that, could you imagine, a Leafs where it's Matthews, Sam Bennett, John Tavares down the middle? Oh my goodness, that would be sensational. But if he's truly going to be getting like $10-ish million, There's no fucking way. There's just no way. Like, he's having a really good season, but there's the point production just isn't there for $10 million to justify in the regular season. It just get really annoying. All year long, it's like, oh, this guy only puts up like 50 points. We're paying him $10 million, but it's like, don't worry, he earns that $10 million in the playoffs. But anyway, Sam Bennett's going to be a really interesting situation for him. He had a great tournament as well. I thought Devon Taves, Drew Doughty was good, man. Like, he was out there. I didn't think, like, he was amazing or anything, but he was really good. I thought he played well. Thomas Harley, like, you got to shout that guy out, man. Like, no one had this guy on the radar for Team Canada. He comes in there, and he played great. And, like, barely knew if this guy was playing. Like, he was like, I'm halfway to Cabo here. Like, what are we doing? Okay, I'm coming back. I'll play. And then last second, this guy plays, and he was awesome. He was freaking awesome. And another defenseman that's going to turn some heads after this tournament. I don't think anybody was talking Thomas Harley outside of maybe myself, because I have him in fantasy, and I was like, yo, Thomas Harley scored 15 goals last year as a defenseman. That's fucking really good. And the fact that maybe Heiskanen wasn't in this tournament, finally Harley gets to shine. And there's going to be a lot more attention on him, and maybe he gets to make the Olympic team this time around as well. So he was great. Devon Taves was great. Makar was ridiculous. I mean, Makar just almost a cheat code, that guy. Like, the Canada definitely felt completely, or they just felt different, man. They didn't feel like they did that first game against the Americans. They just a machine. So Makar, obviously, he was sensational. Marner was great. I thought Parayko was pretty good. I was a little, like, question mark, like, eyebrow raised when I saw his name on the team, because, I don't hear a lot of good things about him in St. Louis, but he's having a really good year, and he was good, man. He was good in the tournament. I liked his game. He's big and all that great stuff. So, holy shit. That was one hell of a preview for, the upcoming Olympics, and now we're going to have more of these tournaments. I think they said the next one is going to have 8 teams in it, so like an 8-nation tournament. What nations are going to be in there? You got to think, like, Germany's going to be in there, Leon Draisaitl, Timmy Stützle. You got to have the Czechs. You got to have Switzerland for Roman Josi. You would have to imagine. We'll see about the Russians. Like, I would love to have them there. Like, Kucherov and Kaprizov and freaking Ovechkin. Like, there's so much talent in the Russian system. Like, you want them to go get involved in that as well, but they got to behave themselves. So there's time, but man, I think everybody is extremely excited and can't wait for the next tournament. This was so much better than I think anyone could have expected, and hopefully it's going to do a lot for the NHL, man. I know the numbers, the ratings were ridiculous. I didn't hear what the numbers were for this particular finals game, but I was hearing like 10 million plus viewers for like the other games, which is sensational. So, very well done, NHL. Like, for once, you did something good, and keep it up. Keep it up, man. You guys got to go up against the competition, go after the NBA. They're reeling right now. So, jump on them, try and get some fans, especially right now. Like, you definitely got some new viewers out of this tournament. So, try and make the NHL product as great as you can. More of these tournaments, please and thank you. That would be amazing. And, jeez, man, what a sensational tournament. Let me know what you thought of the tournament. Who were your favorite players? Who do you thought played the best? And, which game do you think was bigger? The 2010 gold medal game or this Four Nations finals tournament between the USA and Canada? All I know is that was probably the best hockey I have ever witnessed, and we are reigniting that rivalry, USA versus Canada, man, and they're going to battle it out. For now, it's still Canada's game. Wicked, awesome. So there we go. That was a hell of a fun tournament. Let's try now to move back to regular NHL stuff. Let's talk about the Leafs. So the Leafs came back in action, absolutely spanking Carolina until they almost didn't. That was such an annoying game, It was really fun at the beginning. Leafs up 4-0 seemingly in the first 4 seconds. I was like, I can't believe this. This is awesome. And then the game was extremely boring. The first 5 minutes were awesome. Nothing happens until the last, 6 minutes of the game. Carolina does what Carolina do, and they come back, and they almost tie the game up. Thankfully, Leafs get it done. And yes, I am aware that was on the anniversary of, David Ayres defeating the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Zamboni driver who worked for the Toronto Maple Leafs ended up defeating them in a hockey game. Oh, yeah, what a moment that was. What a time. I watched that game. It was fucking wild. But Leafs back in action, so we get to see Alexander Steves, is that his name? And damn, making an impact, bro. Making an impact. This guy has been really good for the Marlies, and he finally gets his shot, and man, I was super impressed with Steve so far. Gets that nice goal, and then the other play that they make with a nice sweet passing play. Like, oh fuck yeah, man, that was awesome. I think it was David Camp was on the ice, or Holmberg or someone. The look on their face was just like, holy crap, we've never had a skill play goal like that before. That was amazing. So hey, Steve's looking good so far, but the question is that going to be the answer for the Toronto Maple Leafs and what they need come trade deadline day? And what do the Leafs need? Well, they need some forward help, I would say. They could definitely use some help on the wing and or center. So I know, what's his name? Yarncroke has been practicing. He may be back, but I know I like Calle Yarncroke. He will add some nice depth goal scoring there, but I think they could try and upgrade that. I think most importantly, they need that center, man. They need that third line center, a second line, something like that, somewhere in there. And I'm seeing things like, oh, okay, well, the Leafs could potentially trade like Fraser Mitten and or an Easton Cowan. And I just read an article on Easton Cowan, and like they're saying like the guy could top out third line, second power play kind of guy. I'm like, what? Really? Like, the way that I hear about this guy is that he's going to be like a fucking superstar in the NHL. But again, every fan of their team touts their prospects a lot higher than what they probably actually are. I mean, how many of those draft picks from the Leafs, like Tyler Biggs and like all those dudes, how many of those we all thought were going to be fucking superstars? Fuck Freddie the GOAT and so many more, and they just didn't turn out. So I don't know, man. Like, we all tout our prospects very highly. I'm nervous about Easton Cowan, man. Like, I know when the Leafs drafted him, he was a reach and a late first rounder, but the way that he's coming along, man, like, I think it would be crazy for them to trade him. But if the right piece comes along, like if a Sam Bennett comes to the Leafs door, which again, I think is just a 0%. It would make no sense for Florida to trade a Sam Bennett to the Toronto Maple Leafs. It just wouldn't make any sense. There's just no way Florida would want to have to try and deal with that. Like, we're not going to make ourselves go up against Sam Bennett. We know what this guy can do. We're not doing that. That's crazy. But if Fraser Mitten, like both those guys, Fraser Mitten, they're saying can top out like third line type of guy, penalty killer, something like that. So all the Leafs prospects, according to other people, none of them are, top 6 level, top 4 defensemen, no top goaltenders. He'll top out as like maybe a backup goaltender, maybe a 1B. Defense, they'd have nothing in the cupboards for defense. And so they have some draft capital, not a lot. I don't know what's out. Well, we'll talk. How about we go there right now? Let's take a look at the most recent names that are on the trade blocks, according to Kipper. So we have Mikko Rantanen is on this list. So we discussed Mikko Rantanen, and yeah, the possibility of this guy getting traded again is out there. Absolutely it is. If Carolina, determines that a couple things. If they determine A, this guy is not fitting into our system, he's not gelling well, and yeah, he's having a really fucking hard time of it, and he currently is having a real hard time of it getting into the Carolina system, looking fucking uninterested at times, man. He just looks rather lost, or he's just like fucking pissed off, man. Like, I didn't want to come here. I want to be playing with Nate Dogg. And again, just goes to show you how fucking good Nathan MacKinnon is. Guy makes everybody a fucking superstar. Not that Rantanen's a bad player. No, he's not. Like, he's still really good. It just goes to show, like, how much Nathan MacKinnon can make his line mates that much better. So Rantanen really struggling. And then the other thing is the guy still wants like $14 million. And if Carolina's like, yo, this guy is, you know, in our system, he's going to project out to be like an 80-point guy. I'm not paying $14 million for that. And so it's a very tough decision right here for Carolina. They kind of fucked up with Gensel last year. Really nothing they could do about it, man. They offered him the same amount of money that Tampa Bay offered him, just he went to Tampa Bay. I want to be where it's nice and sunny and awesome and all that shit, no doubt. So Carolina, they could very easily find themselves in the exact same situation where if they want to keep Rantanen, keep him for a playoff run, and if things go great, great. If they don't, they can see this guy walking, and then you just lost Natchez, Drury, and all that shit for nothing. And so you really don't want that to happen. So, yeah, you could see Rantanen get traded. What would be, if the Leafs could get Rantanen 50% retained on the 50% retained that he's already at, that would bring him down to like $2.5 million. I would trade Cowan, Fraser Minton, fucking everybody for a playoff run with Mikko Rantanen on the Leafs. I'd do it. I would do it. So that would be something that would be tantalizing enough, even though there's no chance in hell, like, unless, this is craziness. If, theoretical, this is the hugest if I've ever thrown out there. If the Leafs get Rantanen and decide that he's a better fit for them in the playoffs, for their future, for everything, they let Marner walk, and then they re-sign Rantanen, and then let Marner go, and maybe Carolina brings in Marner, or is there a trade there? Is that something? Could the Leafs flip Marner? I don't think there's a fucking chicken dick's chance in hell right now that the Leafs are trading Mitch Marner after the performance that he did in that tournament right now, or you'd be crazy not to trade him while his value is as high as it's going to be. What do you do? Would you do that? Would you trade Mikko Rantanen, probably at his lowest value right now, for Marner, who's arguably at one of his highest peaks right now? Would you do that trade? Oh my, I don't even know, man. I couldn't answer that on the spot right now. I mean, shit, dude. Yes, I think if that comes with an extension. I wouldn't trade him if there was no, like, guarantee that Rantanen's signing an 8-year extension with the Leafs. So that is the only way I would do it. Other than that, man, I would stick with Marner, but holy moly, that would be insane. That would be a ridiculous trade. Just 1-for-1. I think that would probably get the job done, eh? Like Marner for Rantanen, 1-for-1. Would you do that, Leaf fans? Would you do that, Carolina fans? And who's to say that Rantanen doesn't just, walk to free agency and then re-sign with Colorado? I love it there so much, I'm going to come back for $7 million. Fuck it. I want to play with Nate Dogg again, please. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there with Mikko Rantanen. That is just some theories. That would be a fucking so fun, though. Like, I would be very sad to lose Marner. Like, even though he's definitely not my favorite Leaf, but bringing in Rantanen, but who's to say, right? Like, would he gel well with Matthews the way that he did with MacKinnon? Like, Matthews is not MacKinnon. Like, that's just a different player. So, I don't know. Who's to say that would work? I mean, they got a pretty good thing right now with Marner and Matthews. I don't know, man. Would you do Nylander for Rantanen with an extension? I don't know. Like, maybe, yeah, I don't know. That's hard, man. Like, I would really like to have Rantanen. So, yeah, Mikko Rantanen is still on the trade block. We got Brad Marchand. So, I'm of the mind, like, I don't care about, like, it's nice. It's nice for a player to play his whole entire career with one place. But if you want to, Brad, if you want to, man, like, if I'm the Bruins, I'm asking Brad, what do you want to do, man? Like, do you want to go to Colorado? I'll try my best to make it work. I'll get you to Colorado. Do you want to stay here? Sure, fine. We'll love to keep you. No problem. You're on a great contract. You're a fucking captain. You're a legend Boston Bruin. Yeah, I'll keep you. And it's not like, I don't think they would get a crazy package for Brad Marchand, man. Like, he's having a good year. He's coming off of multiple surgeries. He's like 36 years old. I mean, like, you could probably get a first rounder out of a playoff team for Brad Marchand and maybe something else. I can't see a whole lot more than that, man. So if I'm a team, like, yeah, I'm hunting for Brad Marchand. If I'm the Leafs, I am begging you to please give us Brad Marchand. Again, there's no fucking way you'll ever see Brad Marchand in a Leaf uniform. It just, that would be wrong. And I would love it. I shit you not, I would get a Brad Marchand Leaf jersey. I would. And but could he get traded? Like, I mean, I think it's up to him, man. I think it's completely up to him. And I think Brad would be completely fine just sticking it out with the Bruins, finishing out his captaincy as a Boston Bruin. And I mean, for me, like, I want fun. I want him to go to Colorado. I want him to go to Washington. Go somewhere, man. Like, go have a run. Like, it really seems like Boston's done. Like, they really seem to be pulling out of the playoff race here. And, yeah, it just seems like a throwaway season. The whole Swayman thing, that really fucked them over. The whole Allmark thing, like, they pulled that trigger too early, maybe just unnecessarily. They didn't need to get rid of Allmark. And, yeah, I think the Bruins would be in a fantastic... I think they'd be probably first place if they just kept Allmark and just let that roll. I think they'd be in a great position. But it looks like this year they're just going to end up throwing it away, maybe retool and come back strong next year, but... Are they going to have... And again, they could easily trade off Marchand, let him go have a run in Colorado, and he's a free agent. He can re-sign with the Bruins. Apparently, the NHL doesn't like that, but why? Like, what? Why is that not okay? Like, I'm doing everything fine. I mean, the Leafs did that, I feel like, twice with Roman Polak. They traded that guy for a second, he came back, and then we traded him again for another second. What? Just because it's Roman Polak? Fuck. I'm fine with that. Like, that, in the perfect world, Marchand goes to Colorado or something, plays with the Nate Dog, Crosby gets traded over there too, Colorado's a wagon, and then Crosby he'll go back to Pittsburgh, and then Brad will go back to Boston, and everything will be okay. They just had a little bit of fun in the summer, and then they came back, and everything was okay. But yeah, Brad Marchand is on the list. I don't think the Bruins are actively shopping him or anything, but man, I think any team would be so lucky to get him. And then Sam Bennett is on the list. We talked about him. Again, I think the Florida Panthers would be better off to just keep the guy, go for a repeat, and I think you're better to have Sam Bennett in this playoff run and let him walk. I mean, it sucks. Like, you don't want that, but the position that Florida's in, they pretty much have the exact same team that they did last year. Like, why fuck with it? Like, I would... Personally, that's what I would do if I was the Florida Panthers. They could get something for him, but I just can't see them trading him. I don't think it makes any sense for Florida to, potentially spoil their chances at a repeat, bringing in, like, you can't replace Sam Bennett. There's no one out there that they're going to be able to get in return. So to replace that, I'd be keeping him. I would be shocked if Florida ended up trading him away. We got Seth Jones. This one kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit. Now, what's going to be difficult is trading away that salary. The homie's making $9.5 million, and he's only in the third year of the 8 years. So he's got 5 more years to deal with. Now, if you can take 50% of that, that's great. That's $4.5 million. But Chicago, like, again, like, if you're going to get rid of Seth Jones, like, okay, there's your best defenseman gone, arguably. Like, did you want anybody on this team? Like, why do you want to get rid of him? Like, you want to make the team better. I know Seth Jones definitely hasn't lived up to that $9.5 million that he got signed for. I would definitely like him more at, like, that $6 million range. I think maybe that's more appropriate. It's hard to say, man, because the team is so barren. It's such a wasteland. I think Seth Jones on a good team would be like a 10 goals, 40-plus assist defenseman, like really, really good. So, like, maybe a little bit overpaid, definitely overpaid for what he's doing in Chicago, but can you blame the guy? Like, there's fucking nothing there. So, I could see a team taking a shot at him for half retain, but is Chicago going to do that? They're going to half retain on this guy for 5 years? Like, you're really hurting yourself if you do that one, just to try and get rid of him. I don't know. I think it might be smarter for them just to hang on to him for now. Like, he's not, like, old or anything. It's, like, how much is that really a burden? Like, when the salary cap is going up so much, Chicago doesn't have anybody they're paying anyway. Like, they have so much free cap space. They could easily sign Marner and Rantanen next offseason and still have like 10 plus million left over to play with. Like, they have so much money. So for me, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to trade him. They're already terrible. Why make yourself so, like, you're going, I think they went too far in the rebuild. And yeah, I don't know if we're going to see freaking Connor Bedard in the playoffs before he's freaking 30 at this rate. So yeah, if he gets traded, that'd be wild. You got Erik Karlsson also here. Very similar to Seth Jones. The guy's got a ridiculous contract, but if the Penguins are willing to eat it, they could get something. I mean, I don't know how much, because, like, you know, San Jose, they made him look amazing. They get a 100-point defenseman, and then they traded him off. Pittsburgh, he has not been a 100-point defenseman. So, I mean, he looked good. They, he was able to show off what he could do for a playoff team in the Four Nations tournament. You shelter his minutes. You give him good power play time. Yeah, he could be effective for a team if you utilize him properly, but I don't know. They're saying Ottawa is a potential landing spot, but, you know, hey, that would be wicked if Karlsson can come back and get the Sens back into the playoffs. That'd be really cool, man, but I don't know, like, you could. I could definitely see Erik Karlsson getting traded. You got Dylan Cousins. He's been on the block for a long time here. Will Buffalo do it? Is the question. I mean, every team in the league wants him. So many people want this guy. Like, yes, give us Dylan Cousins. We'll take him away from you, and we'll get the best out of him, because we know Buffalo can't do it. But this guy, shown that he could score 30, it's just like, who's going to be able to pry him away? Like Buffalo, honestly, you're crazy to trade him, but they're crazy. Of course they're going to trade him. That's what Buffalo does. So where's he going? Who's going to be the lucky guy to get him, and for how much? We'll have to wait and see, but it seems like he's going to get traded. Bowen Byram apparently now is also on the block, and, you know, it made 0 sense, that trade Buffalo made to bring in Byram. He's a great defenseman, but they have Owen Power and Dahlin in front of him, so fucking redundant. What are you doing? And you traded away a center that you needed, so that was stupid. So yeah, no doubt that he's eventually found himself here on the trade block. And I mean, yeah, he's a great young defenseman. He needs a spot to flourish where he's not stuck behind two other guys. Like, this guy is a top 4 defenseman, great shot, great power play potential, and yeah, man, someone will find a home for him, I imagine, and I imagine they're going to pay pennies on the dollar for it. So, there you go. Who else? Oh, my goodness, why not another Buffalo Sabre? Matthias Samuelsson. Oh, man, I would love to get this guy. Okay, how much? Okay, $4.285 million through 29-30. So, I don't know, man, he's a good defenseman. He is a good defenseman. Buffalo struggles mightily whenever this guy goes out for injury. Now, that might be a problem. He might be injury prone, but he's a good little defenseman, man. I think a team would really like to add that player. If you can add him for half retained at 2 point something, holy shit, that could be like another Jake McCabe-like ad. If the Leafs wanted to take a run at him too, I would be happy with that. All right, we got a big one here, Brock Besser. So it does not look like Brock Besser's going to be sticking around with the Vancouver Canucks. It's kind of been a thing for a long time. Brock's kind of always had one foot out of the door with the Canucks. And everyone's saying this guy's going to Minnesota. He's from Minnesota. He wants to play in Minnesota, so he's going to Minnesota. So what can you get for that? I mean, Brock Besser, he had a great year last year. I think he had 40 some odd goals or something like that, but he's never hit that consistently. He's always been a 30-goal guy that has never actually hit 30 goals because he gets a lot of injury problems and so on and so forth. And it is the final year of his deal. He's probably going to want to raise, and a pretty decent one at that. He's making like $6 million now. And hold on. Team has changed his mind. The $8 million AAV extension for Besser. So he could be looking at something $8+ million. I think he'd be a fucking awesome fit in Minnesota, playing with Kaprizov and shit like that. Oh, man, I think that would be amazing. So, yeah, I want Brock Besser to go and be a Minnesota guy, because that would be really cool. And yet another Canuck on the list is 6'5", 208-pound left shot defenseman. What's your first name? Carson Soucy. All right. Well, the thing that's not great about Soucy is his $3.25 million cap hit. That is very, very high. But if a team wants to add a big physical defenseman, if they can get him at 50% retained, that wouldn't be a bad ad right there. Big physical defenseman on the block. Oh, wow. Pavel Buchnevich apparently is out there as well. Let's read this one off. The 29-year-old winger is in his final season of his current contract, but signed a 6-year extension in July that will begin in 25-26. At that time, Buchnevich will switch from a 12-team no-trade clause he currently has to a full no-trade clause and an $8 million cap hit. So I have noticed recently that Buchnevich has been popping off point-wise, been putting in a lot of points. Could potentially get himself traded here. So St. Louis, they tried. They made a coaching change. They made some restricted free agent offers in the offseason, and it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. So St. Louis could be trading off some guys here, and Pavel Buchnevich, they may want to try and trade him now before it becomes extremely difficult with a no-trade clause. So they could trade him now. $8 million for what he brings, not bad, man. With the cap going up, even if I don't think they would retain half, but if they retain a little bit, I don't think they would because of it is a 6-year extension, so they probably wouldn't retain, just trade him straight up. But I think he's a pretty good little player, man. I'm a little bit surprised to see him out here, but yeah, I would take a run at him if I was a GM. Okay, apparently Jordan Kyrou is also here. Armstrong wants to unload an $8 million salary, and while it may be Buchnevich, Jordan Kyrou is out there too, making $8 million. Kyrou doesn't have any trade protection, but a full no-trade clause will be introduced in July. So another player that I don't know if they're actively shopping this guy. I think it might just be theory because there's a no-trade clause kicking in on these players, but I think they'd be really crazy to trade away Jordan Kyrou. He and Thomas are like the two big pieces of this generation. So if they got rid of those guys, like you're really putting yourself in like a rebuild situation. So that would be insane. That would have to be a very big offer, I think, to get Jordan Kyrou. Got Justin Falk as well because St. Louis is just trading off everybody here. And, of course, they got Braden Shen out there as well. So that would be a huge ad. I mean, the Leafs, that would be a great target. That's a picture-perfect center that you can add there. He's got connection with Berube. Again, I think for the Leafs, the answer is Nashville with O'Reilly and Luke Shen. If they can make that work, that would be amazing. Or Marner for Rantanen. That could also be rather intriguing. So I'm just gonna have to start listing off because there's a lot of names on this thing. You got Trevor Zegras. He's been kind of on the outs with the Greg Cronin system. He just really hasn't had a good time in Anaheim for quite some time now. I think a change of scenery would be appropriate. Same with John Gibson. He's been on the trade block for years, so I don't think we really have to talk about that. Brandon Carlo making $5 million there in Boston. He could potentially be moved as well. A big 220-pound right shot defenseman. Someone could grab him, but that $5 million cap is pretty high. Jamie Alexiak, another big defenseman, 6'7". He's got 1 year left on a $4.6 million. So the Kraken could recoup an asset there. You got Brandon Tanev. I know a lot of people want the Leafs to grab him, but he just doesn't bring much for offense. I mean, energy, yes. If they can pick him up for like a fourth, fifth, something like that, absolutely bring him in. But I wouldn't trade a lot for him. I just wouldn't. Yanni Gourde, another guy, like kind of a plucky third, middle sixth center. I think the Leafs want something maybe a little more than that guy, but someone would like to, that's a pretty solid little center right there. You got Rasmus Ristolainen, a huge right shot defenseman. He's been playing better with the Philadelphia Flyers, so maybe someone takes a shot on him, but he makes 5.1 for the next 2 seasons, so that's probably not going to happen. Scott Lawton for the Flyers as well. He's been on the block for quite a bit, but seemingly asking for way too much for him, so we'll see if he gets dealt this year. Ryan Donato, the only player that seemingly can get points on the Chicago Blackhawks aside from Bedard, so why not trade him? Because fuck Bedard, you don't need anybody. Andrei Kuzmenko, he's in Philadelphia, but he could get flipped again apparently. You got Brock Nelson. I don't know about that one because it sounds like they want to re-sign him, which is fucking crazy to me. I'd be trading Brock Nelson in a heartbeat. But really, now that the Islanders are on a run, they're like 8-2-0 or something their last 10. And it sounds like he's going to get extended, but who knows? Like, Lou Lamoriello is a mystery bag. So you also got J.G. Pageau, also with with the Islanders. So if they don't trade Brock Nelson, decide to keep him, good chance they trade Pageau away, so they get rid of somebody. Mario Ferraro, defenseman for the San Jose. He's pretty good. He's not bad. $3.25 million cap hit. He's 26 years old, so maybe, I think the Sharks would be better off keeping him, but Matthew Olivier, that is a tempting one right there for a playoff run, because this guy is tough and he can score, so he's kind of a pretty nice grinder right there. He'd be great on a team's bottom six for a playoff run, so look out for that one. Sean Corrali on Columbus. I don't really know a lot about him. Jake Evans having a big year for Montreal. Seems like he's going to be on his way out. And we'll see how much they can get for him. It's pretty split down the middle what fans want. Keep him or trade him. We'll see what happens. Got Lawson Krause, left winger for Utah. Another big kind of, I don't know, man. I don't think he's big, but I don't know how useful he is with that big. Kind of reminds me of Nick Ritchie a little bit. We'll see if someone will take a shot on him. Alex Kerfoot as well with Utah. Nick Bjugstad as well with Utah. Neither of those guys really, spark a lot of interest, but they could be some decent cheap ads for some depth in terms of forwards. And that's all the guys that they have on that list right there for potential trade targets for this trade deadline. Some big names there. It'd be very interesting to see Rantanen get traded again. That would be very wild, and especially if he got traded 1-for-1 for Marner, that would be the most wild thing I think I've ever seen. So that is very interesting. And that's all those trade targets. One piece of news, the Boston Bruins are pissed off at Team USA's medical staff for the handling of Charlie McAvoy. McAvoy now going into surgery, there's an infection. It's pretty bad. Looking pretty bad for Charlie McAvoy, and apparently it's the Minnesota Wild medical team for USA, and apparently they dropped the ball, and they've had a history of dropping the ball with players in Minnesota, and it's not the first time they've been complained about. So keep our eyes on that one. Pretty interesting story right there. Outside of that, Minnesota's Hartman suspension lowered to 8 games. Yeah, I think it went from 10 to 8. Still a scumbag thing that he did. Outside of that, I think that's all the news that I want to talk about right now. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for listening. Let me know what you think of that tournament. Was it the best hockey you've ever seen? And who do you think is going to get traded? Will Rantanen get traded? Will Marner get traded? We'll have to wait and see. The trade deadline's right around the corner. So shit's going to start hitting the fan pretty soon and all that great stuff. In terms of what else we got going on with the podcast right now, talked about the hardest games that I played on the GamerCast. This week for the GamerCast, going to be talking about games that I played the most on Xbox and PlayStation. There are some ridiculous amount of hours played on some ridiculous games. So we're going to be discussing that this week on the GamerCast. WrestleCast going to be ridiculous. I'm going to see SmackDown and Elimination Chamber live this weekend, so I'll be doing my live review. Well, I'm not going to do it live at the place, but I'm going to tell you what it was like live at the event at SmackDown and Elimination Chamber. Have reviews for that, the recap for the wrestling, and yeah. And I upload all these episodes to YouTube on the Gamer GX Videos YouTube channel. Link is in the description. Go over there, subscribe, please and thank you. And drop a comment on one of the videos. Throw in a question on anything answered about hockey, wrestling, or video games. Throw in a question, shout you out, and answer your question live on the pod. Be a lot of fun. And there's a email address and a Twitter page, but don't really do that. But regardless, it's there. And yeah, there we go, everybody. Thank you again for listening. We'll be back again with some GX Bloodgate.